Well, hey everyone, Athena Dean Holtz back with you again. And I mentioned before that publishing poorly can cost you money. Today, we're going to talk about the 5 essentials for wise spending. If you're going to do a DIY project, a do it yourself, upload it to KDP, it's free, so it must be good. Well, not necessarily. So, first of all, I'm going to give you a litany of things that really should make you think twice about doing a DIY upload to KDP. Number one, there's huge distribution issues. Not everybody likes to order from Amazon, sorry to say. Not only do your books not give the kind of wholesale discounts that bookstores or retailers would have to have in order for them to make a profit on the sale, not only that, but your books are not returnable. And in the publishing industry, bookseller, retailer industry, the expectation is the books have to be returnable. So you are shooting yourself in the foot by having a book that is not returnable. And your book on KDP is not and can never be returnable. There is definitely a stigma. Uh, almost every single person I know has bought a book from KDP or Amazon or CreateSpace or what, Book Baby, Lulu, all the DIY websites. And I cannot tell you the stories that I have heard of typos everywhere, terrible covers, no editing, all of those things. So believe me, you got to fight against that stigma of poorly produced product because you did it yourself and tried to cut corners. The other big issue is that there is no gatekeeper. There is no one to say to you, wait a minute, your book is not ready to be published. You upload it, they're going to print it, they're going to put it in distribution, everyone's going to see it. And that can cost you money. I'm not saying no one should ever upload a DIY project to KDP. I'm not saying that. It's not bad if all you want are books for your family and your friends, maybe, or a limited distribution of books for your book table or your ministry. But the problem is you will end up with a mediocre product trying to do it yourself because you still don't know what you don't know. All right, so essential number two is wasting money on bad services. Here's a great example of that. I met a guy at a writer's conference who had a novel, 125,000 words, and he had already spent $8,000 on editing. I had our managing editor take a look at it. She said there was head hopping, there was plot problems with the plot, she listed off about 10 things that were wrong with that novel, which tells me the author spent money on copy editing when he needed developmental editing. He needed help making that story powerful. He needed developmental editing. And anyone, let me just say, anyone can hang up a shingle and call themselves an editor. But that doesn't mean that they're going to do the best thing for you in a professional manner. If you're the author and you're convinced that you need very little or no editing, then most editors will just do whatever you want them to do, which is a proofread or a copy edit. And they're not going to educate you on what you actually need. And that is where, again, you don't know what you don't know. So you make a bad decision and it costs you money. All right. So the third essential for wise spending when it comes to your publishing journey is avoid at all costs vanity publishers, predatory publishers who call you and flatter you and tell you they're going to make you a bestseller. They make empty promises like you're going to get on the New York Times bestseller list and we're going to put you on the big screen because your story is so amazing. They not only lead you down a primrose path that does not give you a quality product, but they have endless and worthless upsells and hidden charges. And I'm actually going to show you right now some of those companies because I don't like to just say that there's predatory companies out there without telling you which ones they are. So these companies are absolutely predatory. They have no reputation to protect. They are well known in the industry as those who will just accept anyone. They will allow you to pay on their website before they've even looked at your manuscript to see how many words it is, to see what it actually needs. They offer packages that include no professional editing of any kind. And then when they do say that editing is included, believe me, it is an electronic AI kind of editing, not a human who is actually looking how to make it better. Let me just give you an example of one of those publishers that I've just listed, Zulon Press. Here's a great example of just the laughable kind of quality control that they have on the books that they publish. I went on their website, and in fact, we actually saw two books right next to each other at a trade show that had this very issue. One had Jesus's, so Jesus's words with a S apostrophe S, and right next to it, Jesus's core values just had Jesus apostrophe. There's only one way to do that correctly. And they don't even know what it is because they've got books that have both the apostrophe S and the S apostrophe. So that just gives you a very clear idea of how unprofessional those predatory companies are. And let me just tell you that many of them have a strategy of upselling overpriced marketing services to new and unsuspecting authors. And I'll just give you an example of some of those things. A web optimized press release for $1,299. A podcast interviews for $10,669. Get this, ads in Reader's Digest for $143,990. A book signing appearance for $3,999. YouTube ads for $5,499. Hollywood pitching for up to $14,999. And infomercials on small local stations for $10,699. That is the kind of predatory sales that these companies do. In fact, that's a list specifically from Author Solutions, which is one of the absolute worst companies. They actually provide the sales, marketing, and publishing services for Author House, iUniverse, Ex Libris, Westbow. Westbow is supposed to be a Christian publisher, part of Thomas Nelson, but they outsource it to Author Solutions, who sells that list of marketing services to unsuspecting authors. All right, the fourth essential for wise spending in your publishing journey is considering a hybrid publisher. That is where you make profit rather than royalties. You retain the rights for other avenues of publishing or messaging, audiobooks, film scripts, all of those things stay in your hands with a hybrid publisher. A true hybrid publisher is like a traditional publisher, only they allow the author to retain all their rights and the profits and invest in their own project. The name hybrid, I have to warn you, the name hybrid is being used now by predatory companies. So you still have to be careful. In fact, I went online and I typed in Christian hybrid publisher and up popped Wespo Press. That is so wrong. They are not at all a hybrid publisher. At best, they are a vanity publisher. So you have to be careful, even though I'm telling you, hybrid is a strong recommendation for the strategy that you would want to consider. You still have to be careful because there's a lot of people promoting themselves as hybrid when they're not. A true hybrid publisher really is the best of both worlds. And as this article called it, they are considered the middle ground between traditional and self-publishing. Okay, and lastly, number 5 essential for wise spending on your publishing journey is understanding the difference of traditional publishing and the other options. I'm going to just give you an example of the difference between what we made on our self-published version of the NomVet book, Making Peace with Your Past. That was that book that got me started in publishing. Here's the bottom line when it comes to profits. We basically, we printed 10,000 copies of that first edition of the book. We gave away 2,000. We sold 8,000. From that 8,000 copies, we made $40,000. But then when Multnomah Press, a traditional publisher, bought the rights, they went on to sell 40,000 copies over the next 8 years, and we only made $21,000. That's $5 a book compared to 50 cents a book. So the bottom line is whoever invests their money in the publishing of the book is the one who's entitled to the profit. So if it's the traditional publisher that's investing all their money, then that makes you a very small royalty on that. So I hope that these facts highlighting the 5 essentials to wise spending give you a clearer picture of the many ways that you can waste money in the publishing process if you're not careful and if you're not educated.